You've become such an old hag. I can't even see you as a woman anymore. We're getting a divorce. So go away?"
Chuckling mockingly, Tom threw these words at me. I came to take care of Tom at the hospital where he was hospitalized. Despite my devoted support during his illness, this is what I get in return. It's just too cruel. Tom betrayed me with a calm face. Looking back, I realize I've always been treated horribly by him. Yet, why did I endure all this time? There's absolutely no benefit for me to stay married to such a despicable person. Thinking this, I slowly began to speak. "I won't let you have your way anymore, Tom." Holding a firm resolve in my heart, I confronted Tom head-on. "My name is Anna Smith. I just turned 45 and am a working housewife. Our family is our son Rick and my husband Tom. Rick just started high school this year and is a very kind and good boy. I think I did a great job raising him. My husband Tom used to be quite handsome. It may sound odd to say this about my husband, but he was quite popular back in the day. I fell for him at first sight, competed with my rivals, and won the position of his wife. However, he was handsome a long time ago. Now he's not anymore."
"Hey, got anything to snack on?"
Now in his 40s, Tom has steadily gained weight after Rick's birth and currently shakes his ample belly. His weight gain has a particular reason. It was Tom's affair. While I was busy with Rick's child care, Tom, feeling lonely, had an affair. His affair partner was a food lover, and as a result of accompanying her, he gained a significant amount of weight in a short period. "I'm divorcing you."
"Wait, please. Give me another chance."
After discovering the affair, I intended to divorce Tom. However, he did not want to part from Rick, who had just been born, and vowed never to cheat again. For my part, I felt sorry for Rick to be without a father, so I backed down from divorce. Since then, Tom hasn't cheated, but his overweight figure remains. He promised to diet when we were rebuilding our marriage, but he has yet to fulfill that promise. I've resigned myself to the fact that he will likely remain this shape for life. Whether Tom is fat or thin doesn't really matter to me. However, I just wish he would stop leading an unhealthy lifestyle. Tom has remained overweight because no matter how much I warn him, he refuses to give up his unhealthy habits. I've told him many times, "What will you do if you collapse because of this?" But Tom just won't listen. I wonder if my warnings are just a waste of time, as my size and Tom's fat are the only things growing. I am a working housewife, and the company I've worked at since graduating from college has recently become very busy. In the past few years, we've significantly increased our sales and are planning to open a branch office. As a result, my workload has increased, and I'm busier than ever. But I still have to make dinner, right? For Tom's health, I make time to cook meals amidst my busy schedule. But all my efforts seem in vain.
The results of the health check came out. I have to recheck next month.
Another test. Every year, Tom needs to be checked again at the hospital because of poor results of his medical checkups. It's like that again this year, and he's been reporting with a bothered look on his face. "Hey, where's the results paper from the screening? Let me see it." Thinking it would be better to know the details, I asked Tom. However, he refused with a look of displeasure.
Why? It's not necessary, right? I'll just go for the retest and get treated. And that'll be the end of it.
But what if something is wrong?
Look, you're always overreacting. Don't make a fuss over this kind of thing. Seriously.
Tom just grumbled complaints and, in the end, didn't share the health screening results with me. From that day, I made an effort to serve healthier meals, but Tom grimaced at the sight of the food prepared.
This bland food doesn't fill me up at all.
After complaining about my cooking and leaving most of it uneaten, he would buy instant noodles or junk food to eat. A little would be okay, but how can he fit so much of that stuff in his body? He eats so much unhealthy food at once that it makes me wonder how he manages it. With this behavior, he'll likely need a retest next year too. Hey, I'm not saying stop eating, but maybe reduce the amount. It's bad for you.
You're right, Mom. Isn't that a bit too much?
Even Rick, who's at an age where he eats a lot, was taken aback by how much Tom could eat of the heavily flavored foods. By the way, Rick happily eats the healthy meals I make and says they're delicious. But it seems Tom doesn't take his son's advice either.
Shut out. I bought this with my salary. You guys don't have any right to comment.
Tom would shout at us angrily when irritated. Rick and I kept advising him patiently, but each time Tom would react angrily, and eventually we just stopped saying anything. One day, while continuing such a lifestyle, my husband was rushed to the hospital. I got a sudden call from Tom's workplace that he had collapsed. Although I was at work, I rushed to the hospital where Tom was taken. According to the doctor, Tom had suffered a heart attack and needed emergency surgery. Still shaken, I signed the consent form. The surgery was successful. Tom was saved. I breathed a sigh of relief, but I suspected his heart attack was probably caused by his unhealthy lifestyle. Even the doctor mentioned that he was a bit overweight. It was all Tom's own doing. I hope he would reflect a little and change his ways going forward, but it seems I was too optimistic.
Hey, could you buy me some sweet juice? And I'd like some potato chips too. I'm sick of the hospital meals.
As soon as he regained consciousness and felt better, Tom tried to have me buy him snacks. I refused Tom's request with a sense of disbelief. That's impossible. Do you realize that your heart attack was caused by your unhealthy lifestyle? You need to change that. However, Tom lashed out at me in anger.
I'm a patient, you know, saying such horrible things. You're the worst.
Even after that, Tom continued to order me around, demanding I do this and that. He seems to think that because he is sick, it's natural for me to obey him. I could fulfill some of his requests, but I could not agree to anything food-related. Yet, when I refused, Tom would fly into a rage. Sometimes, he even threw things at me. Though I grew increasingly disheartened, Tom, who continued his hospital stay, successfully underwent a forced diet and was in a great mood.
Being hospitalized isn't so bad.
He would say carelessly, not knowing the trouble he caused, while looking in the mirror. He started to show signs of his old handsome self and boasted about getting a lot of attention from female nurses and other patients. I'm tired. In addition to work and housework, I was also burdened with taking care of Tom, making my days overwhelmingly busy. At night, finally taking a break, I sat in the living room chair and let out an involuntary sigh.
Hey, Mom, I'll take over the household chores from now on.
Then Rick, looking worried, said something like that. That's okay, Rick. You have your club activities after school, don't you?
There aren't any matches for a while, and lately, it's mostly just individual practice. Also, it'd be good for me to learn a bit about housework for when I get married, right?
I was grateful that Rick offered to help, but I was even more pleased by his reason for wanting to learn housework. Unlike his father, who had always insisted that housework was a woman's job and never really did any himself. Despite growing up with a father like Tom, Rick turned out to be such a good kid. All right, maybe just a little help then. I said so. Rick smiled and nodded in agreement. I thought I could surely overcome anything with Rick around. But life isn't always that sweet. One day, as I was visiting Tom as usual.
Whoa.
Oh my God. I was shocked to see a nurse with her uniform undone on Tom's bed. The young female nurse screamed briefly, and I stood there astonished. Her name tag read Beth Anderson. Tom, looking flustered, hurried the nurse out and then said that with a sigh.
You should have called before coming.
No, I did call, but who was that just now? What were you doing? I asked him a question I already knew the answer to. Tom had sworn to me he would never cheat again after his affair over a decade ago. I had thought Tom had reflected on his actions because he truly hadn't cheated until now, but perhaps he only refrained from cheating because he had gained weight and no one was interested in him anymore. Shocked, I watched as Tom smirked confidently.
What do you think? I'm cheating. I started getting attention again after I lost weight. It is not enough, no matter how many bodies I have.
But you promised you wouldn't cheat. Then Tom sneered and said to me,
That was a long time ago. You've become such an old hag. I can't even see you as a woman anymore. We're getting a divorce. So go away?
How could you? Then Tom dropped another bombshell.
Actually, she's pregnant with my child. I have to take responsibility, right?
He spoke arrogantly about responsibility, but what about his responsibility to our family? I started to say something but then closed my mouth. Instead, I muttered softly, I see. That's unfortunate. Well, if so, I'll prepare a divorce document.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
I was stunned by his reply, but decided to proceed with the procedure. After having Tom sign them at the hospital, I fought back tears and said, I wish you happiness. I'm leaving that house.
Yeah, that house is mine anyway. It's only natural for you to leave. And I'll give you custody. Rick is more attached to you. And my girlfriend doesn't want a stepson?
I didn't react to Tom's words and just quietly put the divorce papers in my bag. Tom looked on, seemingly enjoying my distress.
I should have done this much sooner. You've been really cold lately. How dare you speak to me like that all this time? This is the result. You ended up having to divorce me because of your own actions.
I had fallen in love and married Tom. He had always been proud to have me, and that's probably why he felt he could treat me so terribly without consequence. But that was over now. I left Tom's belongings and walked out of the hospital room. A month after divorcing Tom, Rick and I moved out of that house, and now it's just the two of us living together. With all the paperwork settled, Rick and I were finally enjoying a day off with no obligations.
Take a break, Mom. I'll make lunch today.
Really, thanks. I'm looking forward to it. Rick and I shared a peaceful smile. At that moment, I suddenly received a call from Tom. Hello. I answered the phone, wondering what he could possibly want. This was the first time Tom had called since the divorce. I really didn't want to answer, but I couldn't ignore it in case it was an emergency. Then I heard Tom's distressed voice from the other end of the line.
Hey, I was told to pay the rest of the surgery bill. Didn't you pay it?
I sighed in exasperation, thinking it was just something like that. I haven't paid it. Why should I? We're divorced. Why should I pay your medical bills? Indeed, I had paid for all of Tom's surgery and hospital expenses. Tom had always found it a hassle to get insurance, so he wasn't covered by any health insurance. That meant I had to pay out of my own pocket. It was a significant amount, but at that time, Tom was still part of my family, and I had no complaints about paying. However, after he brutally betrayed our family and pushed for divorce, at that point, he was no longer part of my family, so there was no need for me to pay. When I told Tom this, he seemed flustered on the phone.
You paid that much? The amount on the receipt is huge.
Yes, because you were my family. I would naturally pay that much for family, but we're not family anymore. Then Tom raised his voice in panic.
You must know that I don't have much money in savings.
Of course, I know. You always spend money wastefully. Indeed, since his affair over a decade ago, Tom had become reckless with money. Despite my repeated warnings, he would just get angry and say, "Don't complain about how I spend the money I earn." He used to not be so interested in food, but influenced by his affair partner, he continued to spend a lot on meals even after they split. Not to mention the golf clubs he gave up on after just 3 days, or the expensive camera collecting dust because he barely used it. Tom was always irresponsible with his salary. Eventually, I gave up and stopped intervening in how he spent his money.
So, you know I can't pay this huge amount, right? Come to the hospital and sort out the medical bills. Where are you right now? I asked Beth to go to the house, but she said there was no sign of anyone there.
Beth was Tom's affair partner. I was truly glad Rick and I had moved out. I never wanted to see the face of the woman who had caused us so much trouble. In response to a flustered Tom, I replied with utter calmness, "There's no way I'd tell you. Right now, Rick and I are enjoying very peaceful days together. I absolutely refuse to let you disrupt this peace." Ever since Rick and I left that house after divorcing Tom, Rick's smile has become more frequent.
I actually always wanted you to divorce Dad. You never seemed happy with him, and he has always said nasty things to me.
Upon further discussion, it turns out that Tom had even threatened to withhold funding for Rick's college education if he didn't comply with his demands. Rick is a kind kid, but lately, he had begun to stand up to Tom more frequently. Tom didn't like that at all.
If you keep defying your father, I won't let it slide.
He had been trying to make Rick obey by saying such things behind my back. Hearing this made me so angry at Tom that I felt dizzy. How could he do such awful things to his son? I had thought that divorcing Tom would make Rick lonely without a father. But that was a huge misunderstanding. Staying with Tom was the cause of our unhappiness. I deeply regret not divorcing him sooner. If we had, we could have avoided so many unhappy days. But now, we are free from Tom. I won't let him take these days of freedom from us. I am ready to do whatever it takes to protect myself and Rick. I will never tell you where Rick and I are. With a firm resolve, I stated this strongly to Tom. There was silence for a while, but then I could hear Tom sniffling on the other end. Was he crying? This was all his own doing, and he didn't even have the right to cry. I almost blurted out those words, but I quickly swallowed them. Saying such things now would be pointless.
Please, pay for the treatment.
Tom begged me with a tearful voice. Annoyed by his voice, I frowned deeply and answered, "There's no way I'd pay, we're divorced."
Do you not care what happens to me? You married me because you loved me, right?
Tom cried out in agony. Indeed, I did love Tom. He used to be so handsome, and I fell for him at first sight. Initially, it was his looks, but as I got to know him, I grew to love his suave ways with women, and his kind nature. Looking back, Tom had always been popular with women, and knew how to act around them, probably why he was so charming. His kindness was also a tactic to become more popular with women.
You looked sad when I signed the divorce papers, didn't you? You still have feelings for me, right? If you pay for the treatment, I'll divorce Beth and remarry you. So.
How stupid you are.
What?
Tom made a pitiful voice. It is in the past that I liked Tom. After Rick was born and Tom cheated, my affection for him vanished. The reason I looked sad at that time was because I was utterly disgusted with myself for not seeing through Tom's infidelity earlier. It certainly wasn't because I still had feelings for him. Tom claimed he cheated because he felt lonely since I was always busy with Rick and didn't pay him enough attention. However, Tom never helped me with the housework or child care, even though I was busy with these tasks after Rick was born. When I once asked him to help even a little, he disdainfully responded,
If you can't even handle that, you're a failure as a mother?
During a time when I was nervous about my busy life and new motherhood, his words were the last straw. His infidelity came to light shortly after. And he really thinks I still have feelings for him after all that. I stopped loving you the day you cheated, 14 years ago. Tom seemed stunned over the phone.
Why?
Why, after doing something so terrible, you really don't understand people's feelings.
If you didn't love me anymore, why didn't you divorce me sooner?
There were several reasons for that. Firstly, divorcing with young Rick seemed too risky. Also, I used to think that it was better for Rick to have a father. My affection for Tom has been gone since that affair. We were merely cohabiting as a family, nothing more. Over the years, I developed a familial affection for Tom. Although I couldn't forgive the past, I thought continuing to live together as a family was one option. But then, Tom cheated again right in front of me. Whether Tom falls in love with someone else no longer makes me jealous. I'm angry because he broke his promise. He broke his promise and abandoned his role as Rick's father. I am furious about that. There's no way I could still have feelings for someone like that. Whatever happens to you, it's none of my business. At my response, Tom was at a loss for words. Hey, are you just going to stay silent? I was enjoying my first day off in a long time. I don't want to waste any more time talking to you. I'm hanging up. As I said this, Tom hastily spoke up.
Wait. Listen. You can't possibly raise Rick alone, right? He's going to college soon. And you'll need money. You'll struggle without me, won't you?
His words were so off the mark that I couldn't help but laugh.
What are you laughing at?
Tom shouted from the other end of the phone. He truly doesn't understand anything about me. I decided to enlighten him with the truth. I've been earning more than you for quite some time. I don't waste money like you, so I have savings. I'm not struggling financially, so don't worry.
Really?
That's right, I don't need you. I have educational insurance for Rex college expenses, so there's no need to worry about it. We have no problems even without you. Indeed, I have been valued at the company where I have worked since graduating from college, earning a salary commensurate with my evaluations. I had to take a slightly longer maternity leave, which delayed my promotions compared to others. Despite the challenges, by diligently working hard, I have been promoted to the position of assistant manager. I had told Tom about my promotion, but he believed that as a woman, I wouldn't be earning much.
You say that you are busy at work, but you are a woman after all. A man like me is always busier. Don't use work as an excuse to neglect housework.
When I got a promotion and became busier at work, there were times when I couldn't cook and we had to order takeout. Those were Tom's words to me then. No matter how much I explained my job or how hard it was, Tom just laughed it off dismissively. The only reason I could endure it was because of my kind son, Rick. It wasn't because of Tom. In fact, Tom was more of a burden to me. I only realized this after the divorce. It might have been Tom's fault we ended up in such a situation, but maybe my own naivety also played a role in worsening things. However, I won't make that mistake again. You hardly gave us any money for living expenses these past few years, right? Didn't you ever wonder how we continued to live as usual? It's obvious because I was the one earning. We have no problems without you. Then Tom muttered in a trembling voice.
What about Rick? He must be feeling lonely without a father. What would the parents of his future spouse think if he doesn't have a father? For Rick's future, it's better if I'm around.
I couldn't help but hold my head in dismay at his words. Meanwhile, Rick, who had been listening to the conversation, gestured that he wanted to speak on the phone. Are you sure?
Yes, I have something I want to say to Dad.
I nodded and handed Rick the smartphone.
Hello, Dad.
Rick, tell your mom she needs me, right?
But Rick, without hesitation and in a clear tone, responded.
No, not at all.
What?
Tommy, Mom is the only my parent I need. Dad and I are just related by blood. I hate that too, but since I can't do anything about it, I just accept it. Also, you mentioned something about a marriage partner. Having a parent like you is actually a disadvantage to me.
Rick spoke his rejection of Tom calmly, his expression utterly composed, and there was no sense of wanting to get back at Tom. He was merely articulating his thoughts in a measured way.
I'm really glad Mom divorced you. Thanks to that, I'm very happy now. If Mom ever considered remarrying you, I'd do everything to stop it because that wouldn't make her happy.
Tom seemed completely at a loss for words.
Can you please not involve yourself with me and Mom anymore? You should just be happy with your affair partner.
Wait, Rick. I still want to be your father.
Then why did you cheat? This is all your fault, the consequences of your own actions. I no longer think of you as my father. You're not needed in me and Mom's life.
Faced with such a clear rejection, I couldn't help but let out a wry smile. I hadn't realized Rick was so firm in his rejection of Tom. I took back the phone from Rick and delivered the final words to Tom. So, do you understand? Just as Rick said, don't involve yourself with us again. If you ever show up, I'll consider taking legal action. Tom remained silent. I sighed softly and hung up the phone. I heard that Tom ended up paying the remaining surgery and hospital fees using money borrowed from a payday lender. He could have arranged a payment plan with the hospital or found a better way if he didn't have the money. His thoughtless actions reaffirmed my decision to divorce him. After settling into my new place, I took some rest and then consulted a lawyer to sue for alimony due to the infidelity. Just getting divorced over infidelity wasn't enough for me. Tom apparently hadn't anticipated being sued for alimony. He seemed to have made quite a fuss when dealing with the lawyer I hired. Then, I am prepared to go to court if necessary. Please convey that I am ready for anything. After hearing this, Tom reluctantly agreed to settle the alimony. At this point, Tom finally told his parents about our divorce and asked for their help to pay the alimony. However, upon hearing this, his parents were furious. They told him that they no longer consider him their son and declared that they were cutting ties with him. Later, I received a call from Diana, my ex-mother-in-law.
We've disowned Tom, but we don't want to lose our connection with you and Rick. Even though you're divorced, would you come to visit us?
Yes, of course. I'll bring Rick along for a visit. Tom's parents are genuinely kind and good people. Even though we live apart, they continue to support us. Rick also expressed a desire to see his grandparents, and we plan to visit them soon. After being disowned by his own parents, Tom borrowed more money from payday lenders to pay the alimony. Currently, he's struggling just to make the interest payments on his debts. I suspect he might eventually declare bankruptcy, but whatever happens to him is none of my concern. Tom, who was burdened with debt, was discharged from the hospital, but soon after, he collapsed again. His unhealthy lifestyle worsened after our separation. I also heard that he had broken up with his affair partner. I had demanded alimony from the affair partner as well, but my lawyer relayed her plea.
She's separated from your ex-husband now and asks to be forgiven for the alimony claim. She lied about being pregnant to make him divorce you.
That doesn't matter. I will proceed with the claim.
Understood. I will convey that.
And so, I relentlessly pursued the alimony claim against the affair partner. Her strategy was to lie about being pregnant, thinking it would lead to a divorce. She never imagined Tom would be so financially unstable. The affair partner, who had been fired from her job at the hospital for having an affair with a patient. She struggled to find new employment and pleaded poverty to my lawyer, but I remained uninterested in her circumstances. Ultimately, she somehow managed to gather the money to settle the alimony, perhaps also using payday lenders like Tom. The specifics don't interest me, nor do I want to know them. After confirming the alimony payment, I breathed a sigh of relief. Thus, my tumultuous days came to an end. Currently, Rick and I are living peacefully and happily. Concerned about potential retaliation from Tom or the affair partner, I chose a highly secure apartment for our new home. Just to be cautious, I keep in touch with my ex-in-laws to get updates about Tom's situation. After paying the alimony, Tom had to sell his house to manage his debts and is now living alone in a small apartment. Despite having initially lost weight, his unhealthy lifestyle soon brought him back to his former state, and when he collapsed and was hospitalized again, he worn out instead of losing weight. Reportedly, he has aged so much that he hardly looks like someone in his 40s anymore. Honestly, whatever happens to him is none of our concern anymore.
Mom, I need to talk to you about college stuff. Do you have a moment now?
Yes, of course, I'm here for you. Lately, Rick has started to think seriously about his future. The divorce ordeal was tough on him, but he's very upbeat now. Since the divorce, I've found myself with more free time than I know what to do with. I'm even thinking about starting a new hobby using this free time. Just the thought of having personal time, which I never had before, fills me with excitement. Have a good day. Today, like every day, I'm dedicating myself to work and household tasks for both my and Rick's sake. Thinking about the enjoyable future that awaits us, I couldn't help but smile.